Well, the biggest guest, or two guests, that we have ever had on Moats are both American military men. One is Scott Ritter, but the biggest one of all is Colonel Douglas Macgregor, a retired US Army colonel, an author, and a former Pentagon advisor. And if only he was in the Pentagon now, the world might not be trembling on the brink of new and more catastrophic conflicts. But we are, and we are lucky to be guided by the wisdom of Colonel Douglas Macgregor, who joins me now. Colonel Macgregor, thanks for coming back on the show. We always look forward to your contributions very much. Let's start, if we may, with the newest outbreak, which Trump claimed he brokered a ceasefire from the seventh hole at Turnberry, which turns out to be yet another falsehood. There is no ceasefire. The war is raging between Thailand and Cambodia. Can you help us? What's that all about?
I think the truth, as far as I can tell, is that both nations, the Thais and the Cambodians, have good relations with China. There has been an attempt to somehow or another implicate China in the dispute. That's simply untrue. There is evidence that we have aggravated the situation. Now, why is beyond me. I have no idea why we would think there is anything of strategic benefit to the United States and the American people to aggravate the situation. But I'm told the CIA has been very active, and this has obviously harmed any attempt to put an end to this. It's a border dispute, and it should end on terms that both sides can live with, and we should have nothing to do with it.
Is it just a kind of computer game that they're playing, sowing as much discord in the world, around the world, in various and very far-flung theaters, in order that Trump can claim that he's solving them? Is it as banal as that, or is there something more profound going on? I mean, in one impromptu, they're always impromptu, press conference today, Donald Trump threatened Iran, Yemen, Palestine, Gaza, and Russia, and implicitly China, as all in a day's work. What is driving all this, Colonel?
This is a very important question. It's one that I've been wrestling with for some time. I think we have to understand something. As much as everyone wants to impute leadership and authority to President Trump, I think he's really the creature of the top 1%. In other words, you've got to look at the interests of Wall Street, as well as the City of London banks, who are joined at the hip with Wall Street. You have to understand that the CIA, the Mossad, and MI6 are all closely integrated. You have to understand that there are other elites that may not be part of the banking elite, but are nevertheless interested in subversion and destruction. And they are advocates for perpetual conflict on the assumption that we benefit from it. You can't look past the truth that we have failed miserably in Ukraine. That's abundantly clear. There is no winning anything in Ukraine now. Russia has come out on top. Russia will end this conflict on its own terms. Governments in Europe are going to change. You've seen that start where you are. I think it's going to happen across much of Europe. The globalist elites, if you want to call them that are part of this top 1%, are losing badly in that arena. So what do? You turn to the other area where there are enormous oil and gas resources as a means of compensating yourself for the loss you've taken in Ukraine. Remember, the idea behind Ukraine was let's dethrone Putin. Let's regime change Russia. Then we can rape it, strip it of its resources, divide it into smaller parts. That's now the plan for Iran. So I think that Trump, who just a few months ago actually spoke very rationally about what was in America's interest and frankly in the interest of the West, is now simply saying what the powerful billionaire class of donors want him to say and do. And they want war in the Middle East. They want this to continue. They want to destroy Iran. And if Russia sticks its nose into it, which is inevitable because the Russians are not going to tolerate the destruction of Iran, they're not going to tolerate the subversion in Azerbaijan, then we will find ourselves confronting Russia and Iran, and behind them, of course, China. Because there's something else, and I think you implied this in some of your earlier remarks. On the one side, the Western finance system is debt-based. In other words, that's how we finance ourselves, that's how we grow. Foreign investment comes in. Well, George, foreign investment is not coming into us anymore. Nobody wants our treasuries. As Nassim Taleb says, the dollar is no longer the reserve currency. Gold is. So I think that's part of the problem. Secondly, that old system that we have used, we in the United States, weaponized it to bully others through the SWIFT system, through the IMF, through the World Bank. All of these institutions from Bretton Woods forward were designed for us to bully others into doing what we wanted them to do. Nobody wants our debt. They want to de-dollarize because every time they do business in dollars, they lose. We pass our debt on to them. And the new system that is being set up by BRICS is resource-based. It's totally different. And what we're beginning to see is in many countries around the world, particularly in places like Africa, places like Senegal, for instance, that has gold mines, they're basically concluding we'll never get out from under the debt burden that we have. So we'll just nationalize it. And the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians and the Indians, everybody said, fine, do it. Join us and get out from underneath this oppressive system. So Trump is now lashing out at the insistence of the billionaires that funded him and brought him into office, and everyone that opposes him. Now, that's a losing proposition, George. We have no chance of success at all. It's a dead end. But he's somebody who still thinks we're living in 1991. And his frame of reference is the late 1950s, early 1960s. So he dismisses out of hand countries like Iran or India or Pakistan or Zaire or any number of places in the world as irrelevant, as though they all have to do what we say, because if they don't, we'll punish them with tariffs. This is backfiring badly on us. And we're headed to a serious financial crisis in the United States and the West.
He even disrespects a country like France. I mean, look how he insulted Macron in the week when Macron said he was going to take this performative step of recognizing a Palestinian state. Trump talked about him as if he was a piece of scruff that had turned up at his door. He said he's of no weight. France is of no weight, even though it's a member of the Permanent Five, even though it gifted you the Statue of Liberty, it played a role in the liberation of your country. France is dismissed as if it is nothing by your president. Now, speaking of France, I saw some writing of yours, which struck me as very apposite, comparing the Western Empire at this moment with the atmosphere of Versailles just before the tumbrils, just before Madame Guillotine. And it struck a real chord with me, Colonel. Do expand on it for the audience, please.
Well, you know, George, the thing that we have figured out in the United States is that our ballot box is broken. Everything that Trump is doing are things that Biden would have done or did do. In fact, one can argue that he's extended the Biden policies and made them worse, when in fact he was elected on the assumption that he would put an end to those policies and extricate us, that he would shed unnecessary overseas commitments, that he would reduce spending in order to cope with this enormous national sovereign debt. What's he done? He's done the opposite. What has Congress done? The same thing, the opposite. The uniparty is now in the hands of these multi-billionaires that decide policy. And right now, policy says we've got to go to war with people. We have to defeat them and bring them back in line. It's not possible. Militarily, we can't do it. We're already overstretched and overwhelmed. We're broke financially. We're not going to scare anybody or threaten anybody into investing in our country by buying treasuries. It's not going to happen. So the American people do not understand the intricacies of the financial system, but they figured out it doesn't matter who you vote for, you get the same kind of fool and maniac. People say often, well, it doesn't matter who you vote for, you get John McCain. Well, John McCain was a hell of a lot more rational than what we're seeing right now. So I hate to say that about John McCain because I met him and knew him. He was a very nice person, and I didn't agree with everything he did, but he was rational. The point is that this is not rational anymore. And he doesn't seem to care because I don't think he understands the true state of affairs. He does not understand that we do not have limitless military power. He does not understand that the world desperately needs us. It doesn't. Our market is not the only game in town. China is the principal market. It's going to be the principal market for a very long time. And everybody forgets that for 2,000 years, China, for the most part, was the richest country in the world. China is simply regaining the position that it once had. You can go to the Shanghai Gold Exchange. You can go to their SIPS system instead of the SWIFT system. You don't need us anymore. And people more and more are doing business in their own currency. So the bottom line is his gut instinct, which tells him the way to win an argument is to bully your opponent, is wrong. But he doesn't get it.
No, and even when he's not bullying, when he's flattering, like he was implausibly flattering Mrs. von der Leyen today, I mean, I don't know if you are as big a fan as I am of the Fine Young Cannibals. They were a very hip group some decades ago in Britain. And one of their great songs was, I'm not the man I used to be. I'm not the man I used to be. You're not the man you used to be. And Donald Trump is showing me daily now that he's not the man he used to be even 10 years ago, maybe even less time ago than that. I see a physical and mental decline in Donald Trump. And that means the second US president in a row doesn't have all their marbles, doesn't have all their spoons in the hamper. And I'm wondering if this is at all dawning on the American public.
Oh, I think it has. And that's why I say Americans are increasingly convinced that the ballot box does not work. Now, that's very dangerous, George, if you stop and think about that for a minute. I mean, those of us who are serious about our American citizenship, those of us who have served our country, I mean, there are millions of us, and to finally conclude that voting is an utterly pointless affair means that our republic, for all intents and purposes, is a facade, a fraud. That's a very dangerous place to be. That is more and more widely accepted inside the United States. This bodes ill, especially as you go into a financial crisis and stop and consider what happens if we're stupid enough, and I mean stupid, to provoke a wider war with Russia and China as well as Iran. That makes no sense at all. We're not prepared for that. We don't have the missile stocks. We don't have the munitions factories. We don't have the production base. And yet I hear the popular propaganda that comes out of the administration is China, that's the real enemy. They harmed us. We lost our production base to China. Well, China didn't rob us of our manufacturing base. That was the CEO class and their shareholders. They shipped it overseas. They were the ones that destroyed America's middle class. But that plays well. I don't know how much longer it will play well, but that's the sort of thing people are resorting to try and hold things together. I don't think it'll work. I'm beginning to wonder if this Epstein thing is probably going to bring President Trump down. And the reason I say that is that we are discovering something that they discovered in France in the 1780s, that this aristocratic class, in our case, the top 1%, that's really ruling the country, is unworthy of that role. They are degenerate. They are decayed. They have no business governing us. And they do so exclusively because they control the financial system. These are not Rockefellers who built oil industries. These are not people that built plate glass industries or automobiles. Those people are gone. The only one that can arguably say that he's built anything lately is probably Musk. But the rest of it, forget it. These people are financial capitalists. They've made billions through financializing the system. Transaction fee after transaction fee after transaction fee. But what does that produce for the American people? Nothing. It impoverishes us. It destroys our jobs. So that's where we are. And I think that's where the French were in 1789. They suddenly became disgusted. The one person that they believed in almost to the bitter end was the king. And it became impossible to believe him any longer. And ultimately, that brought everything down. Well, a lot of people have believed in Trump. They thought he was different. And you know what they're discovering, George? He's not. He's exactly like the people we voted against.